My next guest has fulfilled a dream like no other. She built a boat with her husband and 2 children and then decided to leave everything behind. The entire family has spent 5 years crossing the Atlantic, navigating into uncharted waters. And this morning, as part of our 2nd annual tribute to the American family, I am thrilled to have Kim Peterson with us in our studio this morning. She's the author of this amazing book, Charting the Unknown. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I got to tell you, I was thrilled to have you on our show to talk about this amazing journey that you've done. But my first question to you would be, what made you think of this adventure? 5 years at sea.
Well, living on a boat, we really wanted to spend more time with our children and, escape the rat race. But for me, ultimately, I was very afraid of the water. And so that really came about through, early on in our marriage, we lost our 2nd daughter to sudden infant death syndrome. Yes. And really created in me just a fear of the unknown and a desire to control my life in such a way that I wouldn't have to experience those kind of fearful things again. And I really knew I needed to confront that. And so living on a boat gave me an opportunity to confront that fear and hopefully to challenge that.
And when you sit down with your children and say, hey, this is what Mom and Dad want to do, what's their reaction?
Well, our son was 10 at the time, and for him, someone mentioned spearfishing, I think, and that sold it for him. But our daughter was 14 at the time, and she was apprehensive. But she's very adventurous and independent, and I think those things really, appealed to her.
But how do you go from land to sea, school, financially? How do you do it?
Yes, well, there's a fine line between wisdom and insanity, I think, and we had a few crazy days. There's no doubt about that. But we did a lot of research, and we learned a lot about, how to navigate and how to move aboard. And then, the internet played a big part in us being able to leave the land and be able to work on board and homeschool.
Okay, so talk to me now, because you've brought great pictures about this endeavor. You start building this boat together as a family, and tell me about this journey.
Well, it was fantastic being able to travel in the Mediterranean and eventually the Red Sea. We were able to travel to countries that we had no experience with and learn from people and cultures that were new and different to us. And then, just the whole learning about history, it was really fantastic. Yeah.
And this book talks about so many things, but courage, fear, family. And there's one part that I would love for you to read to our viewers, and it talks about when you decide to jump into the Atlantic Ocean, just like that. Yes. You thought, let me do this because you have a fear.
I did.
Can you read that passage
to me?
I did.
I'd love to. So I sucked in a breath, looked back at my congregation, closed my eyes, took a small step, and over I went. The unknown gulped me down. In the end, the unknown with all its mystery would have its way with me. I surrendered myself to its coolness. I existed there, completely immersed for a few seconds before rising up through the surface to take a breath. I saw Mike and the kids smiling, calling out to me, leaning over the port swim platform with their arms outstretched. An unexpected feeling of joy came over me.
Wow. What was the symbolism behind that jump?
Well, I think for me, since I had such a fear of the water, it was like a baptism in a sense. You fall into the water and you rise up, sort of a new creation almost.
You write a lot about coming together as a family.
Yes.
Your family has actually changed because of this.
Oh, yes, for sure. We've gotten more close together, and you learn to work as a team when you're on a boat, and that was a very powerful lesson for us, especially with having teenagers. Just learning to work together was really benefit.
For someone that reads this book, what would you like them to take away?
Well, I think, we all have difficult things that come into our lives, sure. And we have to navigate our own waters. It may not be living on a boat, but facing those difficult times head on is really what brings us the most opportunity for change and for growth.
It has been a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, thank you.
I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And I believe after this interview, you're going back on the catamaran?
We will be back on Chrysalis, yes.
Back on the journey?
Yes, back on the journey.
I'd like to do a follow-up with you, maybe in a few months, and continue the journey with you, maybe even join you for a few hours and see what you're experiencing.
Come aboard. We'd love to have you.
Oh, I'd be delighted. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
And if you'd like to read the book, it's called Charting the Unknown. You just have to go to chartingtheunknown.com. It is a must-read.